I read this already. I know you've relayed the story, but relay it for us here on the podcast is the time that you got to play with the New York Dolls.
Oh, sure.
How did that happen? What was it like?
I had a band called Semi-Precious Weapons, and we were getting a lot of New York Dolls comparisons. And we had a manager who had worked in the music industry like back in the 70s and 80s, and he had even managed Johnny Thunders for a period of time, and had sort of co-produced what I think is arguably his best solo album, which is called So Alone. And features, by the way, I believe the debut vocal performance of Chrissie Hynde from the Pretenders.
Really?
She was there covering the record as a journalist for the NME. And I think somebody heard her humming along to one of the songs, and then it was like, man, get in there and sing on this or whatever.
Wow.
So I think that's her first record she was ever. But this manager that we had knew Tony Visconti, who produced Electric Warrior for T-Rex and Diamond Dogs for Bowie and many other things. But he got Tony to come see us play. And when Tony came to see us, that brought out, the neighborhood rock and rollers, which included Sylvain Sylvain from the New York Dolls and Steve Conti, who had sort of been playing the Johnny Thunders role in that band, in the new version of that band. And I just kind of hit it off with those guys after the gig. We had a lot to talk about guitar-wise, a lot of similarities. We were all playing Les Pauls and playing them through British amps really loud, and playing chords that maybe didn't belong a lot of times in some of the music that we were playing. And so we just kind of hit it. And we were all kind of dressed similarly, and had some hair going on and the whole nine yards. And so we kind of hit it off. Steve and his wife had their first child on the way. And Steve really wanted to be home for the birth of their kid and be around for that. So he called me up and he said, "Hey man, does your hair still look real weird?" And I said, "Yeah, man." Great, because I do you think you could sub these gigs, with the Dolls for me? And you'd have to learn, whatever 40 New York Dolls songs or something, and David's not going to want to rehearse, so you're just going to have to show up and know it cold and all that kind of stuff. And I did, and it was really great because that was a band, that was the kind of band that influenced pretty much everybody that ever heard them. And when we say everybody that ever heard them, we're talking about the Ramones, we're talking about the Clash, we're talking about, basically, the what became known as the movement of punk rock. The New York Dolls are sort of credited with being at the forefront of that genre development in rock music. David,
they really were ahead of their time. I mean, it was kind of glam rock. Like the look was glam.
The look was very glam. And I think it's Johnny Ramone maybe talks, or maybe it's Dee Dee in the Ramones documentary, the End of the Century documentary. They talk about that, like we'd be coming home, after school, tough public high school in Queens, and we'd put on our fur coats and we'd put on some makeup and some, borrow your sister's shoes or whatever, and go down, town to hear the New York Dolls play, to watch the New York Dolls play. And the magic of it was that it was not so technically proficient that you felt like what was being done on stage was impossible. It felt like I could do that. Yeah. And that was so powerful. And then the way that they looked, they were all so just like handsome, but just like done up in these just amazing ways. And David was kind of one of the first guys to really like lean into, the feminist side of his personality, as a very intentional way to kind of get under the skin of people whose skin probably needed to be gotten under,
So you got the gig.
Yep.
You learned the songs.
Yep.
You got a verse and a chorus out of David at the rehearsal.
Yep.
And then on the plane the next day.
On the plane the next day.
Where did you play?
We flew to Buenos Aires, and the first show was in Rosario, Argentina. We got off the plane, and we were on the bus to the hotel in Buenos Aires, and David pulled out a cigarette pack out of his pocket. He looks inside him and he goes, "I thought this was cigarettes. The whole thing is full of joints." So he had flown
Hilarious.
from JFK to South America with an entire cigarette box full of joints. Fantastic.
Handy.
And we got to Rosario and played the show. Went really well. We did a few more shows on that South American tour with the B-52s, which was really fun.
Fantastic.
And it was just high adventure. After that, I got hired by Sylvain to play in some of his bands. And also Sammy Yaffa had a really cool band in New York called Madwana that he asked me to come try out for as well. And yeah, it was a great, musical family to walk into, because you got the Dolls, you got David, you got Syl, but you had Brian Delaney, who was this amazing drummer. Sammy Yaffa, had originally been in Hanoi Rocks and just had every amazing rock and roll story you'd ever want to hear. And then there were the sort of adjacent, Hubert Sumlin was a part of that family, and Brian Coonan was a part of that family, and all of these, just really great New York musicians. And so, yeah, it was kind of like, stepping into a whole new group of friends that kind of elevated my the bar for me.
What year would this have been?
2009.
Mm-hmm. Did you ever see the documentary New York Dolls?
Yes. Yeah, about Arthur.
Arthur.
Yeah.
Maybe
fantastic.
my favorite music doc of all time.
It's really great. And it is such a beautiful picture of Arthur. Here's this guy working in the library that used to be in the New York at the Mormon Library.
Genealogy Library.
Exactly.
And he's like, all he wants to do is get the dolls back together, and he's got his base in Hawk.
Yep.
It lives in at the pawn stop, and he makes sure, and before the ticket runs out, and so they'll put it on the market, he goes and pays the bill again year after year to keep it in Hawk, just keeping the dream alive,
just in case.
God, it's such and the turn. I think everybody should watch this music documentary if you can find it. New York Doll. The turn it takes at the end of the movie is so, to me, if it had been a scripted film, I'd have been like, okay,
yeah,
come on, guys.
I know.
But it's just like, wow, just so beautiful, such a beautiful story.
It really is.
A beautiful rock and roll story, and that's how I knew of the New York Dolls, but the kind of the review part of that movie is like how I got more familiar with the history of the band. Hey, thanks for watching. Go ahead and click here to like and subscribe. You can click right there to watch another video, or click here to watch a playlist featuring songs of the Morse Code Podcast. Okay, thank you very much.